So what happened during the lockdown? We saw a number of activities that very much increased the dissemination of the collections. Here is the example of the Uffizi de Cameroon. The hashtags were rather popular to increase the knowledge about collections. We also have an effort, very much from staff from home, reaching out to those communities also at home, inviting, for instance, this example on museums from home or culture à la maison or many other hashtags. They invite engagement to learn to see collections with simple objects. This I thought was a rather nice example. There's many others. From the NEMO report, we know that museums had quite a bit of online activity before the close down. And this is noted by the orange diamonds. We see also during the lockdown, a number of activities were either increased or started. These are the blue bars. What is clear is that education and collections are predominantly present. So online exhibitions, virtual tours very much increased, as well as adding objects to the collection online, and hashtags in social media, as I mentioned before, very much with objects with the collection. In terms of who's doing this work, from the Enumerate report, we know that museums have an estimate of 5 staff and 2 volunteers working on digital activities. And this is for an average museum of 50 staff. These 5 museum staff and 2 volunteers are presumably skilled in digital technology. From the NEMO report, the pie on your right, we'll see that the majority of museums have less than 50 staff. So a third have less than 5 staff. 17% have less than 10 staff, 20% have less than 20 staff. And so we easily see that the 5 staff doing digital activities is probably not present in the majority of museums. This reflects an important need to advance digital literacy in museum staff. Regarding the core activities of museums, I mentioned that lots has to do with collections and education. It makes sense to translate this on the online environment. However, again, from the Enumerate reports of all institutions across Europe, we see that less than 10% of collections are available online. And this was very noticeable during the pandemic, as the same images were repeated over and over and reposted. Museums have such rich collections. It will be nice to see more of these objects being available also online. What do we know about the online visitor? From the Eurobarometer 466, there's been an estimate that 21% of Europeans view cultural heritage. This is presumably where museums are located. And about 11% create content online. So this will be the, for instance, museum at home hashtags. But this is compared to 31% visits physically. To me, then, this seems extremely low. So going to the museum has many limitations of time and space. I cannot be in Georgia right now. And because I'm here, I cannot go to the museum. However, online, we don't have this space and time limitation. it will be much easier to reach museums and visit museums online. However, we see this is not yet happening. Why? I want to share some of the work one of my students just finished. She graduated yesterday. She looked at Italian visitors. She sent a survey and she asked, during the pandemic, it's all closed, what do you miss from museums? People very much missed looking at artworks in person, walking in the building, being in the museum. And then she asked, what do you like of museums online? And people very much like learning something new, but also very much looking at art. And so we see that, again, collections and learning are at the core of this physical as well as digital museum. Something a little bit troubling from her results, it was a big surprise. She asked, before Italian museums were closed, did you visit online? Only half of her respondents visited. So 47% never visited a museum online. After museums closed, she asked, well, now that museums are closed and you could visit online, do you visit? And again, almost half of respondents don't visit museums online in Italy. So 42% never visited. So this is a minimal increase in online visitors. From the NEMO report, we see that visits increased. And so we believe this has to do with the same people that visited museums are visited more often. It's not new people, it's the same us that know what there is and visit because we like it. How do we reach those others, non-visitors? What I would like to show you is based on the NEMO report. This is a graph that shows popularity of the activities. What do people like to see? And I reorganized it based on the core activities. Let's suggest is collections and research, so that will be the blue section, exhibitions, that will be the orange section, education, that will be the yellow section, and then you have other things like information in general, or even maybe the shop, the web shop. And if you look at what museums do online and what people like, it's clearly, again, very much focused on education and collections. I think understanding the online activities based on who views what and how to perhaps bring this education and collections activities will be very helpful for museums to develop new strategies. And so to close my presentation, I would like to say that as I started, yes, museums are very much online. So I invite museums to embrace this digital technology and the possibilities afforded. 24/7 reach to the globe. What do you want to say? The experience that the pandemic has highlighted the limited resources. Yesterday, presenter mentioned the low rate of educational staff. The same happens now with digital. Do we need a specialized digital staff, or can our educators also have the skills to do their work digitally? So this is a question on how to use our limited resources. Do we get new staff? Do we hire externals? Do we teach our own staff? As museums took new roles online in the pandemic, it is interesting to consider new ways to engage the public and very much welcome new visitors. This requires a leap outside of the comfort zone. So how do you reach those that are not your followers? that are not your visitors? Where do you position your museum online so that it reaches others? And last, understanding the benefits of these tremendous efforts requires knowing who's looking at these, what do they like, what are we doing? And so I very much invite museums to seek ways to gather evidence about what they're doing to inform their future strategic decisions. And I guess with this, I thank you for your time. This is just a last snapshot of an article that came out in New York Times about the Uffizi adopting TikTok in very crazy ways. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Trilce, for shrinking also your presentation and staying in time. Among the various channels and media that you analyzed in your survey, which one do you think will continue or will improve in post-COVID time? We saw that a lot of videos were, of course, favorite during the COVID, during the lockdown, and maybe less podcast or whatever. Do you think that the balance will stay as your chart demonstrated, or they will evolve?
Thank you for this question. It's actually a very interesting question. I don't think we know, because I think if museums really get into digital activities, they might discover new things. We see Uffizi adopting TikTok, the least museum I would have imagined to do so. And that's interesting. And so, however, one of the problems with this survey was the organization of the services. I think it will be interesting to try to measure what's been done, but with a little bit different organization. So as I argue, less on the channel and more on the activity. If you do a video about the collections, you can show that in your website as a video, or in many other portals, including social media. And so I will be more interested in looking at the type of content rather than the channels. This can change, hopefully.
Okay, thank you very much.